John from Roots to Fruit Midlands Limited. Welcome to Hamilton House Gardens. I want to go through this garden with you, go on a journey with you to show you the concepts of garden design. Basically, whenever you look, say for example at a front door or an entrance to a place, that starts to tell you a lot about what that house is about, who owns that house, and very much is the same way about this garden. Gertrude Jekyll once said that a garden has got to be like clothes. They have got to be the right fit, they've got to be the right style for that person. They can't be too small, they can't be too large and flappy, they've got to be just right to fit that person. And that's what you'll find out about this garden, and how there are many different elements of it that are in different rooms and in different themes that will show you how this is a perfect fit for a certain type of person. So let's go in and have a look and see what's inside the garden and the different rooms that are here. So one of the things that you need to learn about garden design is themes and styles and how the garden is formed on paper. And really you can split garden design or gardens into two different categories. One being formal and the other being informal. So repeat that again, one's formal and the other one is informal. So the first thing that I'm going to introduce you to now is formal gardens. And when you look around a formal garden, you'll notice that it's set out with lots and lots of geometric shapes, and you'll see the whole geometric shape there. Rectangles, circles, hexagons, all sorts of shapes that appear in there. And also, the shapes also follow into a 3D dimension. So you will see cubes, you will see spheres, because something called topiary is used where plants are shaped into these 3D shapes, such as cubes and spheres and balls, and it creates this wonderful view. It's very, very flat, an even surface that you're going along, and they tend to be connected with the house. Now, don't be fooled into thinking that you've got to have anything like Versailles or Hampton Court Palace to have a really great formal gardens, because formal gardens work really well in small areas, like even like a courtyard. So don't just think that you need a massive garden to be able to do a formal garden. But what you must have is whole shapes that are in there, and you must look at things like symmetry. So basically it's like where you fold over a piece of paper and it's the exact same shape, and you fold it again and those four shapes come out. That's what symmetry is all about. You can have symmetry down one axis, or you can have asymmetrical, and that's what you'll see here in this garden here, that there are whole circles that are used, that they are symmetrical, and that the shapes are 3D as well. And also there is a pattern that is formed, and that pattern tends to be a low box hedge that might map out and really extenuate the shapes that are there. You might have twists and shapes that are the same and repeated throughout to create this sense of unity that is there within the design. So you'll tend to have gravel paths, or you might have concrete or brick paths that really state that what the shapes are and how they are permanent and how they're not going to move. You'll also notice that we create a lot of what's called static colour. So within planting, and the big stars of any garden are always the plants. Within a formal garden, there's a lot of static colour. And when I say static colour, it might be like these Japanese Lonicera or this box of sempervirens. That is static colour. It is evergreen colour. It's very rare that it changes colour. You might get a new flush of green in the spring, but they're always green. They're evergreen plants, and that's what creates the structure and formwork using plants of the formal garden. And also there's knot gardens that are created in such intricate ways using these low box hedges, and these hedges are there to show off plants, to make plants the main show of any formal garden. And in this one here, they tend to be the same type of plant. So within all of the box hedges that we've got here, we've got roses, and we've also got bulbs such as daffodils and tulips. And that's what tends to happen, is that they become showcased for one type of plant. But that unity is created through just having one type of plant that's been shown off. Normally it's a plant that's been hybridized and quite difficult to grow. And that's what it's showing you is that maintaining these formal gardens is normally very high maintenance and needs a lot of labour and time. Also, always think about, with any garden, the use, how we use the utility. So for example, this area here would be great for entertaining, it'd be great to have a party here because it's nice and flat. People can walk around it easily. People can gain access to all the different beds to look at it. And that's basically how a formal garden is used. And the other thing about any formal garden is, like when you go to Versailles or if you go to Hampton Court, the king has put, or the owner of that house has put in that formal garden for a reason. Very often you'll notice that a lot of the apartments where guests stop are right over the top of that formal garden, so they can look down and see those amazing geometrical shapes. And what it does is it shows off the wealth of the person within that house. So if you've got a massive formal garden, they spent a lot of money not only putting it in, but also having to look after it because it's so labour intensive. So what it tends to do is either impress, or maybe it might even intimidate certain guests that you have, particularly if it's in a political situation, that they look out and they say, wow, this person means business. But again, like with any formal garden, they're very easy to design, and they're very easy to create interest. So if it's the first time you're having a go at garden design, it's quite an easy thing to do. And if you like shapes, and if you like structure and form, and you like things to be fairly rigid, this is the garden that is for you, the formal garden. As we move from formal and we move further away from the house, you'll notice there is a change, a very slight change. We've still got the circle here, but all of a sudden there's only part of the circle that's here, and we'll notice that the shape of the border has changed, that the plants are not consistently the same anymore, but there's all sorts of different types of plants, and the plants have become layered. You'll also notice that there are different textures, and the plants now are forming what's called transient colour. And what you'll notice is the garden is starting to become more wild. We change levels very quickly. We now have slopes, we have steps, we also have hidden archways, and we have hidden areas that we can go inside and have a look at. We become disorientated. We don't understand what the edge of the garden is. There are false doors and windows that we don't understand where they lead to, but it's about our imagination. And what we're doing is we're moving from formal to informal. So we are progressing further away from the house, further away from the formal area into this informal area. And what you'll see is that it's starting to become more natural, or a bit more wild, a little bit more rural. The planting is much more dotted around. There's less of that rigid shapes that you saw. And you'll notice as well that the path curves off, and we have these wonderful curves that are there. And what you'll start to see is that each one of these paths, as you start to turn the corner, creates a view. It creates a vista. It creates a picture. It becomes picturesque. And you don't see all of something. You might just see, poking through some of the planting, a feature such as a folly, or such as a building that might be used as a pergola, that creates focal point, and it creates a journey. It makes you want to walk up these paths. It makes you want to look around. What's the next corner? You can't see the garden all at once. And so we see that the shapes have become looser. The shapes are not geometrical shapes anymore. There's very little symmetry. And as we walk around these paths, we will notice that it becomes more random. And when we look along this feature here, it becomes more natural. So we can see around the edge of the pond, there are rocks. This isn't supposed to look like a fake pond. It is a natural pool that is being created. You'll notice that the different colours of foliage that is here, like with these maples, there's purple and greens and yellows, and it's all layered beautifully. And they're allowed to grow and create their own shapes and natural forms. Whereas in the formal garden, we were seeing tight, rigid shapes. We were seeing topiary. we were seeing box shaped into actual formal shapes. There was no room for them to do what they want, like some of these trees and Japanese maples are allowed here. You can't see all of the garden at once. It only becomes revealed as you start to take that journey around, as you decide to go around that one bend. And we come to different areas as well. We've been into deep woodland, we've been by a pool. We've also got this lawn that's got these lovely sumptuous curves. So it's really difficult to tell exactly what shape it is. But as we've come closer to the house, again, it's started to become more formal. As we've got further away from the bottom of the garden, we'll notice that closer to the house, where there's more people and entertainment's going to happen, the garden becomes more formal again. But the other important thing about an informal garden is it goes right back to Persian times, back to when they were creating a park or a paradisos. Very often a collection of trees, but also it was an area where kings and nobles could have guests and they could go out, and it was a bit of wildlife, a bit of the great outdoors at their convenience. They could go, some of these parks were big enough to go hunting in. So the important thing about an informal garden is, A, you borrow the landscape. So if you're backing onto rural fields, you find a way of drawing that landscape in so it feels like it's part of the garden. And also, you can have informal in any garden. The key is looking at the boundaries. And you'll notice here, it's very rare we ever see a fence or anything like that. It's very, very clever, layer upon layer of plants that have been created to make it disorientating so that you don't know where the boundaries of this garden are. It's quite disorientating, but absolutely wonderful. You feel like you can just get lost in here. And that's what informal is all about. It's shapes that aren't necessarily symmetrical. They're not geometrical. You might see a part of a shape that's there, but it also takes you on a journey. It flows lovely, so the levels change, and there's an undulating feel to it. Also, the plants tend to be more transient in colour, so you can see there's a vibrance of colour here compared to the formal garden, which is constantly changing all the time. It's always changing, not that static colour that you've got there. And also, it's natural, it's picturesque. It's like having a bit of the countryside here within your own garden in your control. That's what a formal garden is all about. Another great thing about informal gardens is mingling the wild with the cultivated. And it's so easy to do with grass and bulbs and wildflowers. It's dead easy to maintain, and it creates a really, really, really pleasing effect. Just a simple grass path through some bulbs, or the grass cut closely to the forget-me-not gives it a really pleasing view, and it shows the attraction of having an informal garden that's slightly on the wild side. Very often when I've designed gardens for people in the past, you can design a garden for a couple. They're all like chalk and cheese. They've got two completely separate tastes. There's a his and a her taste. And they might say, well, John, I really like formal gardens. And the husband goes, well, I really like informal gardens. But guess what? You can have your cake and eat it. You can blend the two together. And actually what you'll start to see is actually when you cleverly blend the two together, it is a really, really bold statement, and it can be something that's really amazing. So at the moment we are in this informal setting. We've got this lovely path that is telling us to walk around here. So let's follow this path and see where it goes. It's going to take us over a bridge, over an informal pond. You can see all the rocks are there. It feels like we're out up in the mountains, and we've got a wonderful waterfall that we've just discovered, with all the informal rocks and natural stone and planting that's overhanging the edge. It feels really, really natural, picturesque, and it feels like we're out in the countryside. But as we go a little bit further along and turn around this end here, what do we have? We have a blend of the two, and it is a remarkable fusion of formal and informal. So the planting behind, again, is transient. Lots of flowers and different textures that are there, but we are in the middle of an entire geometrical shape, which would say that this is formal. The shape has been even more emphasised by the fact that they've created this circle of seating all around the edge, so it's become 3D. You're right in the middle of this informal setting, and it's wonderful. The two of them work together, really blend together. And don't forget, with informal, if you want to create a curve that is pleasing, make it part of a circle. So like with informal, like this path here, it seems like a really pleasing curve. Do you know why? Because it is part of the circumference of a circle. The designer that has designed this has drawn part of a circle to create that wandering path that goes around there that makes you want to go around and see what's around the other side, see what the next view is. So yes, you can blend the two together really well so that both tastes of the potential client, or if you've got if you're designing your own garden, you've got somebody else that's enjoying it, so you can both have something that you enjoy together and it reflects your tastes and your interests. So my name's John Ensel. I'm one of the company directors at Roots to It Midlands Limited. We're a training organisation. We run lots of different qualifications. We're doing our first online qualification. We're going to do it on the theme of garden design, organic gardening. We're going to also throw in some other units about horticulture that you can do from your armchair. You can do this qualification from your armchair and learn about the wonderful craftsmanship of gardening and garden design. So if you've watched this video and you like it, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free of charge and it will keep notifying you every time we put up a new video. Also, we can give you loads more information by doing one of our courses, whether that's accredited, doing an off-qual backed qualification in garden design or horticulture under Countryside Skills, or whether you just want to do it for your own enjoyment, get more information about how to design your garden and learn from me, an award-winning garden designer and horticulturalist. Go to www.rtflearn.co.uk. That's www.rtflearn, that's what you're looking for. That'll take you to a landing page and it'll show you all of our different courses and all of our prospectuses. But make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube videos so that you keep getting those. Thank you for watching.